Florida students are confronted with videos of ICE raids, of families being torn apart, and of Americans being murdered for using their constitutional rights, they respond. They organize, they speak out, and they do what American students have always done in moments of injustice. They stand together and demand safety for their peers, their families, and themselves. And that response, while framed by some politicians as radical, is rather reasonable. It's rational, and in a moment like this, it is required.
That was activist Xander Morich speaking at a Florida Teachers Union press conference earlier this month, calling student protests against ICE required at this time. Really? Required? Joining me now is Florida Congressman and gubernatorial candidate Byron Donalds. Congressman, that young man just seems to think that that's required. What say you?
No, it's not required. What's required is for our young people in Florida to be in the classroom getting an education so that they're prepared to be economically viable when they graduate high school, or if they're going to matriculate to college to better themselves for their future and for their families. I think what's most disgusting is that you have the Florida Teachers Union who's allowing for this to continue, as opposed to trying to do the right thing, which is, number one, working with the federal government to make this process as seamless as possible and not use this moment for pure politics. The teachers union, they've been, frankly, they've been beaten down a lot by Governor DeSantis the last several years here in Florida. Obviously, this is a play for them to try to put their head back up to try to see if they have some political clout. But one, it's not going to work. Two, our students need to be learning. That's what they need to do, period. That's what's required.
Well, and maybe learning a little bit more about the Constitution, that peaceful protest is a little bit different than disobeying law enforcement or impeding upon, an active investigation by law enforcement. You have the right to protest your government, petition your government. That's about as American as it gets. But they seem to lose this lesson in what it's like to peacefully protest.
No, I agree. And I think if the Florida Teachers Union wants to actually teach something to our young kids, teach them about the enumerated powers given to the federal government by the United States Constitution, which was ratified by the several states. You should teach them that, because what is in the enumerated powers under the Constitution of the federal government is full control when it comes to immigration and naturalization. That includes enforcement, that includes deportations, that is federal policy. Donald Trump is following federal law. He's following the powers invested into the federal government by the Constitution. And it's not really something where state government gets to come in and say, no, we're going to impede you from doing your job, or we're going to promote these protests to hinder or try to embarrass the federal government from following its constitutional duty.
Congressman, one of the big races this year is obviously the gubernatorial race there in the great state of Florida. You seem to be far out in advance of everybody else. And your campaign, at least from afar, got a $5 million boost from an AI super PAC, Leading the Future. What is it that you think is attracting people? What are you hearing, seeing, feeling from people out there in terms of the future of Florida? Because by most metrics, it seems to be leading every other state on so many things.
No, you're absolutely right. First of all, we're the best state in the country, and that's to the credit of Governor Ron DeSantis and his leadership of our state the last 7 years. But when you're talking about AI or technology, I believe that Florida must have a plan and a strategy for how AI is going to move through our state going forward into the future. I think when it comes to the tools themselves, the number one thing we have to do is make sure we're protecting children and that parents are fully aware of what their children are doing with AI tools. I think that's critically important. If you're going to talk about data centers, we want to make sure that there's a concrete plan of how they are going to be developed, where they're not raising the utility costs on Florida's consumers. But every time we've had an innovation in our economy, there's been concerns and trepidations. But that innovation has actually led to a larger economic pie, which allows for more United States citizens, Americans, and of course, Floridians to be able to take advantage of that. So when we talk AI, when we talk AI data centers, it's about having a strategy so that you can have that innovation occur in Florida while making sure we're not raising utility costs on our people or even making sure that the environment and our water is being protected while we step into the next wave of our economy.
Well, we only have about a minute left, Congressman. Do you think Congress and the states should put up guardrails above and beyond what you're talking about with just children? Because I think intellectual property, deep fakes, there's so many things that are happening, and it's scaring a lot of people.
Look, I think that both the state and federal governments have a role to play in a regulatory framework. Obviously, there's disagreements on the Hill about a statewide, nationwide moratorium for state regulatory practices. But I think at the state level, we do have a responsibility to make sure parents are at the head of the table when it comes to AI or anything dealing with their children, for that matter. And I think you raised a good point when it comes to privacy concerns. But one thing must also be clear: we have a responsibility to set clear guardrails for what the future wave of our economy looks like. This is one of the reasons why I think Florida needs to lead on this issue. I do not want to see California or New York or Illinois lead on this issue. We already know they make dumb decisions. Florida should lead the way.
Yeah, amen to that. Congressman Byron Donalds, thanks so much for joining us tonight on Kudlow.